You're all set, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good evening and welcome to the special meeting of the Orange Board of Finance. Today's Monday, March 6th, and I'll call the meeting to order at 7:01. And I'd like to start by having everyone introduce themselves, beginning on my right.
Kevin Moffett.
John Cifarelli, Finance Director.
Mike Gray, Orange Board of Education.
Vince Scarpetti, Superintendent of Schools for Orange Elementary.
Joe Nuzzo.
Jim Leahy.
Ajit Jain.
Kevin Houlihan, thank you very much. Item number 3, public dialogue. Is there anyone here who wants to speak to Mr. Davis?
Good evening, everyone. Paul Davis, 335 Smith Farm Road. For the record, I am a member of the Amity Board of Education, currently serving as the Amity Board Chair. But tonight I am speaking basically as a member about concerns involving the Amity budget and not representing the board officially. Just a few items that I would like to bring to your attention on our concerns. On January 23rd, Superintendent Byers came before this committee, presented the superintendent's budget and her proposed budget. Presentation lasted over 2 hours. She answered questions. Approximately 11 days later, the Board of Finance had their annual full-day workshop. And toward the end of that workshop, there was a motion, and the motion was voted upon and passed, that the Board of Finance would support no more than a 0.46 Amity budget increase. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that's a bit unrealistic, but more importantly, I was not even aware there was going to be a vote that day. I checked the agenda. It was not an agenda item. So as far as procedure goes, I believe that maybe something was done in error. I don't think it was done intentionally, but I would ask you to review that and make any corrections procedurally if necessary. Also, the question comes before me is, what does that vote mean? The Amity budget does not come before the Board of Finance for a vote. It goes directly to the voters of the district. They're the ones who make the decision. So what does that vote mean? What are you going to do with it? Last year, there were a significant number of articles in the newspapers that were concerning because they appeared to shall I say, give people the opinion that they should not vote for the Amity budget because we don't spend enough money. And when I say that, it means we have a budget. At the end of the budget year, there have been over, I guess, 13 years you've related that, significant surpluses. So the message that comes to us is, hey, you're not spending all the money that you should be spending. That's a bad thing. And we're not going to support your budget. I understand from the Vice Chair, and by the way, Mr. Leahy, I want to thank you for the time we spent together. It was enlightening. I enjoy the conversations. Don't always agree with each other, I'm sure, but that's the way things are. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that we are recommending that we look at the funds that were not used for the school district this year. With the original budget, there was a vote. The original town budget was based on Amity being a 3.93, I believe. It's approximately $200,000 difference between that and the actual amount that should have been spent on Amity. So the town collected the taxes, and it's still sitting where, I don't know, but I assume the town still has it. At our last meeting, we also credited the town the additional amount of our surplus over $700,000 in total, and I believe the town would get approximately somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 and some odd $1,000. So that's a total probably in the neighborhood of $500,000 that the taxpayers paid for the support of the Amity District that is not being spent by Amity. And our suggestion, or my suggestion, and we even talked about working with Board of Finance on a memorandum of understanding, is that money should be held over and used to benefit the taxpayers in next year's budget. That way it's going to Amity where it was intended, and taxpayers serve to gain quite a bit by not having to pay for that. This year, our budget is still in the works, by the way. And unfortunately, we had our Board of Finance meeting, and your representative was kind of stuck in a situation where he had to vote a certain way, but he was the only no vote on that recommended budget. The motion was to have the Amity budget, the Board of Ed support a budget of no more than a 2.25 increase. So that's where we are. It hasn't been done yet. Our meeting will be March 13th if anybody's interested. And in all likelihood, the budget will be on the agenda, and that's what we will vote on. Other than that, I also see a large number of friends in education and understand how important our elementary education is, and I would encourage the board to do everything they possibly can to support what's needed to keep the school district in Orange to its outstanding level. With that, I thank you. I'd be happy to answer any question if you had them, but I don't want to take the time.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Item number 4, Orange Board of Education budget presentation. Dr. Scarpetti.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. Good evening, Board of Finance members. We appreciate this time with all of you this evening. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to look at the letter that Mr. Kraut and I sat down and wrote. I wanted to highlight the second paragraph where we state that we still realize the educational impacts that are caused by the pandemic as well as the economic burden. And with that, we bring forth a budget that minimizes the financial challenges, but we are focused on the needs of our student, and that's a whole child, not just instructionally, but the emotional needs of our students too. With any budget that we've done and continue to do, it's not just a one-person machine that creates this. It's many people. Many people are in this room this evening, and I like to thank them. Many of our board members are here behind me, and I want to thank them for the opportunity and all the time that they've given through this process. And many of our administrative staff are behind us too, so thank you for their efforts, and also just the entire staff for all the work that they've done. I always like to share the mission because this is what drives our focus. This is said at every board meeting, something I respect that the board has done prior to my arrival as superintendent, but continues to do that. And the one poignant thing that I like is about the together we will make a difference, and I see that specifically of the matters that I'm going to be referencing in a moment. So our highlights, I'm going to go over these next 2 slides very quickly, but current year about safe environments, social emotional learning, as I just mentioned, efficient use of grant funds that we received. And our goals for next year is to continue to ensure our safe and healthy environments, engage and empower students, and about providing high-quality instructional practices. And if I could, I just want to take a quick moment because as we were preparing for this presentation, it just dawned on me that I think sometimes we forget. A little over a year ago, all our students were still wearing masks, and our staff. That on February 23rd, the board unanimously voted to have masks as an option. Why do I share that with you? Because it seems so long ago, but it really wasn't, number one. Number two, I'm not trying to make a statement about the use of masks and for those who are for or against wearing masks, but I do feel like it had a huge impact on the student learning. When our masks are covered, especially by our instructional staff, I think that impeded learning. And even to take some steps back, the year prior to that, we were one of the few schools that we were in school, but again, everyone was wearing a mask. And then again, as the infamous Friday the 13th, as we've known to be careful of, but March 13th in 2020 is when we all went virtual. And again, my gratitude to everyone here behind me and the support of our staff, and especially our teachers and parents that made this happen. And again, you'll see gradually of how that's impacted our budget and what we're going to be asking this evening. This I always like to share. Again, it shows about the enrollment. Let me just put my glasses on for a second. One thing I point out is this area right here where we do students budgeted, and you will see typically what we budget at this time of year, we actually grow from by the end of the year. The only time that you will see a difference is right here. Again, we saw many parents keeping their children home because of concerns of their well-being. But for the most part, every year the enrollment would grow. In addition, what I wanted to share with all of you that I've done in the past, I want to remind all of you, this is just K to 6. We do have a pre-K program. We don't share those numbers because that enrollment fluctuates. But typically by the end of the year, last year we had 61 pre-K students. This year right now we have 67, and that's still growing. We are asking the taxpayers of Orange for a 3.37% increase this year. We share this pie chart every year, and it's no surprise where the majority of our budget goes to salaries and benefits. I personally believe that's where it should be going. I refer to as the human capital that has the most impact on our students. You'll see major drivers for increase once we get into the line item budget of salaries, support staff, technology, curriculum software, transportation, gasoline, building repairs and maintenance, and furniture utilities. You're going to see some increases on specific line items. This correlates to what I said earlier about making a difference and the support that the selectmen and all of you as a Board of Finance members that helped us with capital items. You'll see line items that, hey, Vince, how come you see a large increase? Because all of you helped us out at a time of need when there were a lot of challenges. So you'll see specific line items that may draw your eye, and that's exactly the reason why. And then you'll see some major drivers for decreased special education tuition and transportation and health insurance. One thing that I will mention when we do the line item budget, I think many of you may be aware that there are properties being built at the Firelight Plaza and Smith Farm. Want to share this so you have this, all of you have this in front of you. We need to be prepared for that, of the influx of students that may occur. Currently, right now, both of these developments, the students, if they were to move into these developments, would be attending Peck Place School. I know we'll be going over class size, and you have a sheet where our class sizes are. This is something I strongly recommend we keep where we are. I know sometimes that may come up in the past about the number of students in each class, but not knowing of what students will be arriving and about the flexibility we need to have to address those needs. But want to share all of this with regards to, and again, not to go into depth with this evening, but if any of you have any questions regarding what is on the sheet that you have in front of you, we'll be more than happy to follow up with that.
What's the word flat mean? You know, you have two bedroom flat. Is there 10 words?
So it's a first floor apartment with its handicapped accessible first floor apartment.
Thank you.
Again, we're asking for a 3.37% increase. Contractual obligations, again, that's where you saw that in the pie chart where that's the most, is 1.21% of our 3.37. Again, this is our contractual obligations, including health insurance. And lastly, as always, we do appreciate the support that you've given and guidance over the years, especially as we've went through the pandemic and how we're continually addressing those needs of our students. That being said, Mr. Lynn, I'm ready to go to the line item budget if you are.
Great.
Okay, I'm not sure if everybody in this room, or even if the people at home, but just to know that what we're about to go through is typical, right, Vince? Well, Mike, we've done this, Billy, we've been doing this for a while, right? It's what we do when we went through the Amity budget, right? Okay, details. And also our monster town budget, all right? That we have an all-day meeting of. So this is nothing new, and we do it as a team, all right? We have a role here at the Orange Board of Finance, and we work together to understand, and if opportunities surface that we might do something better, all the good. If it surfaces something else, then that's a need that we haven't even come up against. So this is nothing new, so I just want to preamble that, Vince. Is that a fair assessment of what
Yep.
we've done in the past?
This is the line item budget where I highlight and summarize what's in front of all of you.
So I would encourage our team here to get the, one of the handouts that we have here, and we'll start with that. And Joe, if you can help me remember where my glasses are, that would help a lot as we go forward.
Switch the file.
Yeah. And we're just trying to keep it fair as correct. Let me just make sure that as we scroll down, this is, okay, so we're on page 1, a happy page. Let's just figure out the right amount for the people in the room. Maybe I won't take as many notes, maybe I'll take here, I'll just take them over here. But what we're talking about in terms of focusing on the eyeballs is what is in red. Is this year's requested budget. We can see that on this very same Excel sheet is a lot of other data, pretty transparent, it would appear to me, just from a look, whether it's my town or just another department at Sikorsky that was walking in. But you can see the approved budget from last year, right here in column G, what Vince and company are saying, what they anticipate the budget to be spent. Sometimes it's exactly the same, sometimes it's less. And you can see the actuals in prior years as well as the budget going back a couple years. So from a structural perspective, that's where we're at. It may be that over time as we go through this, we might hide a couple of these so that we can kind of give a boost to the others. Might help everybody involved, so why don't we try that? Unless someone says, oh no, we have to see 2021, that type of thing. So Vince, I would say, why don't we just go a page at a time and
Sure.
walk us through?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Leahy.
Good.
As I mentioned, again, referencing that pie chart, and the largest part of that pie chart is contractual obligations. You'll see that from line item 101 all the way down to 105. What I like to highlight is line item 103, which you'll see a 12.83% increase. Where I want to highlight with that is some of you may know that we hired school security officers at each of our schools. There's an adjustment in their hourly rate. Right now, what has occurred, I think we were one of the first schools to implement SSOs in our schools. Subsequently after that, many schools have done that, and it's become competitive out there. We don't want to lose, and again, this has been a common theme that we've had and we've shared with all of you in prior years, that we don't want to lose good staff, get them trained, and then go to another district just because they're paying more money. So that is the cost for that increase in that line item. In addition to that, moving over to professional services, I like to highlight consulting fees. You may recall when Mr. Oakenquist presented the capital planning committee, there was a topic of conversation that we talked about air conditioning in all our schools and the impact of that. The number we provided was something with regards to a feasibility study that occurred many, many years ago. After the conversation occurred with all of you, I brought that topic to our Board of Ed, and we are including an additional $30,000 in order to do another feasibility study to get an accurate number of costs that it would cost to update buildings, but specifically with our air conditioning. Moving forward, district expenses, most of that stayed the same. You'll see some mileage increase because of the mileage rate increase, and you'll see that in another line item on the next page. But I want to highlight equipment and furniture. There's been many years we've asked for equipment and furniture. It's something that we've asked even in the capital planning, and because of needs that were a higher priority, the school has not received that. So that number for equipment and furniture represents 4 classrooms that we are requesting in this budget.
For, on the one hand, I'm trying to think of 4 classrooms. It must be something about the classrooms, right? Can't build 4 classrooms for $71,000. I'm pretty
No,
sure.
this is about just furniture, so desks,
Oh, okay.
chairs.
Okay. So you're just replacing them, or?
Yes, sir.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Is this something that you see recurring, or is it just a one-time shot?
We have a long-range plan. We'll be happy to share that with you in our Building and Grounds Committee that we got together.
Yeah,
And it shows, just like anything, if, I think there's examples of even when we get to the technology, where there's a rotation of our hardware, our Promethean boards, which are our smart boards, our Chromebooks, that we want to have a rotation. This has been put in our budget, but also in our capital planning request. And since it has not been honored as of yet, we want to start implementing it in our budget.
okay, so when I look at 118, am I thinking just the classrooms, or am I thinking, you mentioned Chromebooks?
So that's separate. I want to
Yeah.
give
Okay.
the technology as an example,
Okay.
and you'll see that once we get to the technology. But
Because
this
I
is
know from other school systems like Amity, they have separated the two.
yes,
Okay,
as do we.
okay.
No, and this is, to say long overdue is probably an understatement, because
Now,
it's been
could this be
around.
something that we could use capital for if we
We
had?
could, but
Okay.
this might not, this might be a year not to, but
Yep,
this is.
but we'll have that discussion
They've
separately.
had this, and it's been kicked down the road for a while.
Oh, I'm,
We've been to see some of these things, so.
okay. All right, so we're getting to an end of a section, administration, so maybe we'll just go last call on questions for this section. How about that? What do you think, team? Joe, you good? Yep?
I'm good.
Everybody good? Okay, good, thank you. Curriculum then, next?
The category of curriculum and development, one area I want to highlight is with regards of software, the curriculum software. So you'll see an increase on that line item. Again, you'll see line items that you'll see a dramatic increase, but this is because in the past, we've received assistance from the town, and this is just one of them. As I mentioned before earlier, with the example of SSOs, as we move down to instructional and other, you'll see an increase.
Could we hang with the
Sure,
curriculum
absolutely.
software? So just work with me as I look across the horizon of that line item. So I'm educating myself that last year we had a budget of 136, right? But we only anticipate spending 80. So we're underrunning, if I understand it, Mike, that line item. Our expectation at year end.
But I believe that's due to capital that was funded to us.
Oh, so we replaced it, okay, so you're keeping it down this year. Okay. So
That's why it's
we
very-
really should
if you
be
look back,
looking,
it's
so
very
it is, so when you had a 136, just educate us again on the specifics of what we're buying here for 136 versus 163, now that you've educated me on why it's down on the 80.
So they're all the various softwares that we use in the classrooms. They're curricular-based softwares that we use. Some are, so we use Renaissance Learning, for instance, which is STAR, and that's used for benchmark assessments with our students. We use Greg Tang Math, which is a math-based curriculum software. There's
There's a-
Lexia Core.
Okay, I don't need,
Yeah.
I only want the intro to the 101 course. I don't want to.
And we'll be happy to
I just want
provide
to be
that.
asked
And we
to
can prov-
get
yeah, we
a dialogue going here, so
And
we
we can
can,
provide the list of software that there was assistance with last year if you want.
roger that.
We
Okay.
have it.
I'm sorry, Vince, you want to jumping down to instructional? I'm all with you now.
Sure. So I like to highlight, which category? Two categories are 131 and 134.
All right?
One thing that we've done, and again, I can't thank the board enough for their support with regards to this, is prior to the pandemic, we were seeing the need of, or actually the lack of substitutes that were applying for Orange. And one thing that we did is we created a position called a district permanent substitute. So we had 7 people last year. We're increasing that to 8 this year. And that had a profound effect without knowing that the pandemic was coming, and especially where the guidelines were when people had to stay out longer when they were positive of COVID-19, had a tremendous effect of us keeping our doors open. As you may recall, there were many schools that had to close the doors
Right.
because of staff. Now that the pandemic is over, we are still dealing with challenges because people are maybe getting sick or developing other medical needs where they're taking a leave of absence. So we request, and the board approved of 1 additional FTE. And why I highlighted the other one too is about substitute teachers. We're on the lower scale of our substitutes. And what we found out is even though we had substitutes or even district permanent subs, they would leave to go with their districts, even districts that were adjoining us. And so we increased the day rate for that. And this is the reason why you see the increases of those 2 line items. But it's an important piece that we need to have the resources with district permanent substitutes and a daily sub.
I remember you talking about this, particularly 134, the permanent subs. You said that made a big difference.
Huge, and it still does. And again, with and thank goodness the pandemic is in our rearview mirror now, but still people, for whatever reason, of a medical need that could occur, which happens, or even in a positive way, if someone goes on leave because of having a child, we need those resources. And what we found by implementing the district permanent substitutes, was great to have. But what we saw is the people that typically were daily substitutes, the rate was so low compared to other districts, they were going to those other districts.
No, as a matter of fact, I think at Amity we heard the same thing, right, Joe?
The wage pressure is not
Yeah,
much real.
yeah, and just getting subs
Yeah, there's not enough.
yeah,
And there's billboards up and down 95 for the towns
really?
searching for any position for teachers, absolutely.
I ought to get
Drive by
out.
one every morning in New Haven,
That
and they're
sounds
down
like
into Fairfield County.
Okay. Anything else in instructional that you want to educate us on?
Unless there's
Anybody else
a
got a
question, I
question?
can move on
Ajit,
to
you good?
textbook and supplies.
Kev, you good on instructional? Good. All right, the blue one there?
So textbook and supplies, this is all our schools put together. Again, the increases that you will see has to do with costs. Again, not only are we talking about what we shared about hourly rates and salaries that have increased, but cost of materials, including paper. You will see that, and then other areas where the town has assisted us and helped us to pay for, you will see an increase. For example, the one you just highlighted, Mr. Leahy, science supplies.
How have we helped you there in the past?
That was a capital item that the board assisted us on.
Okay. And that was not in the budget here from last year?
Correct, there were items with that. Now, in addition to that, we do have a section that, and when we get to that stage of showing the classrooms, you will see that typically what we've done, we don't just add students to a section. If there's a section in first grade, we just move it diagonally to second grade.
Yeah.
So one of the impact, not only with the board supporting us, but an impact of an increase is because we have a section that I'll point out once we're up into that category of school sections, is we need an additional science kit for a 4th grade class.
Okay. And that's, so that's an explanation for part of this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. All right, so that's gone up amount of money, a high percent, but most of it seems to be in this bucket right here on the science supply stuff.
Yes, sir.
Good. I don't know if we can get special ed on one page. We'll try.
Okay.
We'll do it in two pieces. How about this piece?
So, as you saw in the presentation, I shared that there is a decrease in the budget with regarding the special education. The largest impact that you will see is related to special education outplaced transportation and tuition to other schools. As you may be aware, at any moment, we may have a student that arrives in our school system that has an IEP, which services that we can't provide, they would have to attend another school. That being said, our goal is to ultimately have students, when we can, return back to our school. And when that occurs, or they happen to transition out of our school, either if they leave the Orange Public Schools to either attend Amity or to leave Orange Public Schools because their parents have moved, there's a fluctuation with that.
When does the process start? When do you start the process of the overlap between, let's see, be grade 6 to grade 7 at Amity? At what point in the school year do you and your staff get involved with Amity staff to kind of,
Those discussions are occurring right now, and I'm sure they will continue to
do
occur.
they start like in September or November?
I don't think they would start in
typically?
September. I think some have started already. I know there was one meeting that has already occurred
Okay.
with Amity.
Okay, because they develop their budget, at least the superintendent's budget, by January 1st.
Right. Well, something if that happens to impact, we would of course share that
Okay,
well in advance.
okay.
I thought you were talking about just transitioning of our students, no matter if it's our, because our principals meet with the middle school principal to talk about transitioning, and as you'll see, there's a
Right.
cost. But specifically, if you're talking about an outplacement, those discussions.
Well, I
are-
was really, Vince, all I was thinking about was the budgeting, really. And so if you're going to have things that you can communicate, like I want to tell Ajit, right? Hey, Ajit, coming your way, right? Here it is. I'm just wondering when the timing of that happens, because I know they're under pressure to get their budget together by first week of January, at least the initial one. And so I just, when that dialogue with Ajit, or in your case, with Amity, when that occurs. Okay. So it's going back to the top of the line, that you mentioned the two that are going down. It seems,
We want to highlight those two because that did impact the budget in a decrease. And again, that may change. At any moment, tomorrow, we could get a student, and what we're projecting as not having a cost with those two line items could increase tomorrow.
Okay.
But this is what we're currently projecting at this moment.
sorry about that, team. I can do better than that. Okay. So if I were to compare this to last year, grab the budget book, look at it, these are about the same number of resources?
Here and there, I think there was one additional increase with a special education teacher.
Okay.
We've had discussions in years past where we look at certain position. One was a BCBA, you may recall that, Mr. Leahy, where a board-certified behavior analyst, when I first arrived, was being outsourced from ACES. Then we actually looked to see if it was cost benefit if we hired our own, which it was. These numbers may not be accurate, but I believe we were spending $150,000 for a full-time BCBA. Then we hired our own at the cost of $75,000. So that was a huge decrease to
Doing
the
more with Russ right there,
right there.
right there.
And so one of the things that we've done is with an ABA program, and that's an applied behavior analysis, where we have students that, due to behavioral needs, we use this term least restricted environment. Again, our ultimate goal is to have all our students stay in Orange. At times, that does not occur when we can't provide that, but this is something we continue to look at. And we do have an ABA program which has allowed that, but we did have to hire, which we did, an additional special education teacher.
Okay. And you seem to be on budget right from columns, whatever it is,
Yes, sir.
G and H. Hey, Mike, you got to teach me how to print so that these columns, you put them in there in row 2. I like that. Very good standard work. I like that. Very strong. I kept on, someone told me that, they said, oh, there's a way to print Excel with these top things, that you can see there, but they don't print there. Oh man, why didn't I think of that? Yeah, so, good idea. Not a violation, it's a good idea. All right, anything else on special ed team? Kev? Pete? Good? Joe? Yes. Okay, very good. Next is,
Technology.
Technology anyway, let's take a peek.
This category is probably where you see the most where we've received assistance from the Board of Finance with regards to capital items. And you'll see fairly large increases because of that.
That's where we paid for Munis and everything else in the past, not in their budget.
Chromebooks
Yeah.
and such.
So what's in this 95 for hardware? Is that something we paid something to this year but was in capital, do you think?
Yes.
Mike, what do you got?
So last year were the Promethean boards
Yeah.
and some of our Chromebooks.
Yeah,
And we have a plan going forward, a 5-year plan of rotating Chromebooks because they're getting to end of life. So this 95,000 is to supply Chromebooks for
the
first.
Chromebooks like PCs? Is that
They're,
right?
yeah, they're laptops, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, laptops, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Big increase in copiers and printing. Let's talk.
So that's for our renewal of our contract with Konica.
Uh-huh.
And we are leasing 8 and buying 3 of them
Okay,
because 3 are not quite at end of life.
okay.
And by buying those 3 and leasing 8, the cost will go down in year 2 and 3.
Like, give me an idea, not to be held, not that I remember.
Yeah,
But I'm
gonna say
curious.
somewhere around a little bit more than that 40,979. So somewhere in the 40s.
I'll just put down good deal. Okay.
This is a
That's what it
strategy.
is, right? I mean, we're all working as a team, right? So it's a good deal. All right. All right, a couple of words about 57,000.
So,
I can't even read it.
so the district utility software.
Yep.
So those are all the softwares that we use. The biggest one that we use is called Power School. It's our PSIS, and it's our information system for all of our students and staff. And it holds a lot of the data for our state reporting
Yep.
throughout the year.
Well, okay, so, but you used Power School last year, right? This year, you're using it now. What's causing 50% increase?
That's another.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
That's okay.
That's
You're on a
another
roll.
area where the board helped us. The Board of Finance helped us with, and Munis was in there as well. Yeah.
Okay. All
And
right,
again,
so-
just like the curriculum software, Mr. Lee
Okay, so we'll
and
just
Mr.
put
Houlihan,
Munis,
that
in 22, 23, all right? Okay. That'll be a reminder that, Kevin will keep track, I'm sure. Okay, so we have a plan. Yeah, it goes up to 65, Jim, but it'll be in the mid-40s next year, if you're here, God willing. 95, we probably did some capital last year, Kev, you think?
Oh, definitely.
On the district hardware side. And we helped out somewhat, Johnny, in the Munis side, is that the deal? So even though it looks like almost a doubling, there's some asterisks involved here. We were buying for it from this pocket rather than that pocket, right? In other words, budget pocket here, capital pocket here, right?
And going along with that same theme, on the next line with regards to school security and safety.
Yes, sir.
That was another item where we received support again, purchasing camera software and switches regarding our security and safety. Cameras.
Supported 22,
software.
23 via capital, I'll say. I think that's what. So what is this 31,000 buying anyway?
Mostly cameras, software, switches.
Okay. Can't type, but whatever. Okay. Say what?
Right above it, the capital, why capital? Line above.
Oh, I can't even see it. You know, at home, I have to have a big screen now because this thing, I can't even see it. I'm still running 5 a day, though. We're giving it a look. Okay.
5 yards, Joe.
Yeah, 5 yards for Joe, 5 miles for me. Okay, good. Okay, so do we understand technology, team? Good? Joe, you good?
Very good.
All right, moving on. Okay, a little bit on health services, same as last year, estimated to use the same. Transportation, let's start.
So beyond the contractual increase that are provided to our owner and operators, the one thing that we highlighted and I mentioned earlier is with regards to the developments of Firelight and Smith. There's an extra route in there in case we need that. We would like to have put that in and be prepared for that for transportation of incoming students in those properties.
And it more likely would be Firelight the first year, right?
Yes, we're expecting
Because we
Firelight.
talked in your office the other day, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Sounds like smart planning.
Below that, the transportation for school visits is what I mentioned earlier, that there's transitions, not only that our principals and director of special ed make with Amity with regards to specific students in general. And at the same time, it's having our students visit the middle school and our kindergarten students visiting their home schools.
Vince, if I could go back and maybe John's the dude to, what are we paying coming this fall? Everybody's in the same gasoline in town, right? So what are we paying for the budget year coming up compared to the budget year that we just?
I don't remember the exact number.
But give me a, you know, over a beer kind of thing.
I think it's 230 something.
230.
From what I remember, yeah.
To like 205, and I think the year before it was about $1.70.
All right, 235 versus like 204, all right. And this is approximate. So what you'd say, okay. Well, that would be a 15% increase, so we're seeing something a lot higher than that, so that might be something to double check. Unless those, you know, we're doing these numbers off the top, right? So God bless America. So we can figure it out. I'm sorry, Vince, you were already down to facilities and building ops.
So as we talked about, you'll see a slight increase with PTA and PTO events. What we found after the pandemic, there are more events that are occurring in our schools, which we're happy to welcome our families in. But that's the reason why you see a slight adjustment on that line item, 204.
204, oh, okay. Oh, because you have more events, you need more OT for,
Correct, sir.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we talk about building operations, we've talked about not only salaries increasing, but materials and supplies, and that's why you see an increase in line item 207.
Okay.
Moving further down to building repair all schools.
Whoa. So we have a big number here.
And you may have, because I believe Amity also shared this too, there's a
Oh,
state,
that's the 113?
yeah, the state requirement for that HVAC assessment. Yes, sir.
I thought it was 113. It was over 100,000 to inspect stuff that we just put in, or, I mean,
In addition to that, we have contracted services in that line item, and those costs have also increased.
so is that contracted services, Mike, is that the state requirement as 100,000 plus, or?
So approximately about 120 is going towards that.
Yeah.
But we
Okay.
also have contractual expenses such as with fire protection,
Well,
elevator, whatnot.
Let's just put this down. Approximately 120K is CT mandate, right? All right, and so if we had 15 in here, we might ask a question, right? Might not. So that's all we need there. What are we, the BOE in schools, is that just, what is that? I mean, what are we doing this year? What are we planning to do next year type of thing?
So that's money that goes toward preventive maintenance in our buildings,
Okay.
maintenance, and it's money that goes towards repairs that might come up.
All right.
You try to keep up with preventive maintenance as much as possible so you can avoid the repairs.
No, roger that, and Lord knows we have, it's like my driveway at home, you know? I'm gonna get to it one of these days.
And this also coincides with our goal and our mission about health and safety schools. Again, that's a broad area, but when we're changing filters to have a more, a higher level of where the air components in the school and such. So again, this is again aligned with our mission and our goal statements that we shared earlier.
What about the plant maintenance? We have maintenance of our facilities and our grounds. Is there an overlap with what we do, Mike, a little bit, or?
No,
It's
so-
not a lot of money, but I'm just,
Right.
it is an increase, $5,000, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just, what are you thinking?
So I will say Chris Small and Park and Rec do a great job of helping us out with, you know, they maintain the lawns.
Yeah,
And really what this goes toward is I have some extra money in there this year because we need to reline all of our parking lots. So that's an expense. We've run into an issue lately with some trees around the property lines of the schools as well, and had to take down a couple of trees, not this year, the year before, which was quite expensive. So we have some more work to do around the schools, so that's in there. And then before the start of school, we prep the buildings. We hire a contractor to come in and clean up the gardens and trim all the shrubbery and whatnot.
okay. I'm surprised electricity hasn't gone up more than that,
Yeah.
John, isn't our, I thought we,
They have solar. Very simple.
so we're saving those $5 a gallon oil bills that I've been getting, right? Or some of it anyway. Oh, wow, let me write that down. Solar helps. Okay. Roger that.
A lot.
Okay, yeah, apparently. Total facilities, okay. All right, I guess, anything else? I'm sorry, team, anybody have other questions in here? What, waste of
Not
space.
Paige.
How do you delete it? There we go. Okay. Bunch of insurance and stuff like that, so why don't we tackle insurance?
I'm not too sure how much Mr. Cifarelli has shared on past meetings, but one thing we want to highlight is that first line item, general liability insurance. A huge component of that is the cyber insurance with regards to that. Again, safety and security is very important to us in Orange, but that is one of the reasons why you see an increase with that line item.
These are only estimates. We won't actually get the actual amounts that may. There'll be a fight again this year on the site.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so many of these are estimates.
Sorry, I came in a little bit late. The $533,000 decrease in health insurance, I probably walked in a little bit late for that. Did you guys already discuss that?
Nope.
No? Okay.
You're early. We're just walking through, Kev, so we're in a section, and that's one of the ones in the section, and it was definitely gonna come up.
So, Mr. Cifarelli, I don't know if you want to share that piece, but I know that claims were down from 7.2 million to 7 million, and the cost was down from 53 to 51%. I don't know if you want to add anything with that, Mr.
We do a
Cifarelli.
percentage between the board and the town on claims, and their claims went down and the towns went up, so that gave them a little break this year, and we were able to stay, I think, even with what we had last year because of the savings in the previous year on the claims.
Does that get to your question, Kev?
Yeah, you guys have locked in, right?
Yes.
As a consultant? Okay.
All right. Kev, couple Kevs, two more Kevs, now we got three. Gee, Joey? Good. All right, awful lot there in that section called total insurance comp, so. And we got stuff that seems to be stable.
All the
over
rest are
time.
stable, and again, if you have any questions with regards to any area, not just the ones that are on this page, please, we'll be more than happy to address it, unless you want to go into enrollment, Mr. Leahy, with
Well, let me just do this. Let me say this is, my world, right? Version 2, V2, right? Put it on the front, that way it doesn't get hidden at the back. We lost an airplane at Sikorsky just for that reason. You'd be amazed, but that's what the root cause was. We've gone through now and looked, at least from a helicopter view, of all your components, right? And we have examined them. Also on the tabs, if and when everybody is, I'm just going to march through them. I have created PowerPoint slides of these, so we can come back to that. But in addition to each one of these, the Orange Board of Education leadership and OBOE staff have definitions of all these things in here. Okay, so you don't have to go hunting as to why. You just have one working definition. This is the tab that we went into, all right, with great standard work that I'm going to copy for all future files. We have projected enrollment. I have that also on a PowerPoint slide, so we can come back to that. And the other two things, I think, are just tabs I created when I was playing with it earlier today or over the weekend or whatever. So this is what was distributed to the team by, I believe, Mike, or no, it was Vince, Friday, I think it was.
Yes.
So what I could do, but Vince, tell me if this helps, and if it doesn't help, let me know. This is, I created and I moved over, if I did it right. Okay. This is last year's of this chart, right? So this, which comes exactly from the Excel chart, well, actually, I copied it from the presentation I created last year, which you guys saw. So this is this year's chart. So one thing we can all see is it says 98 in the lower corner here, right? And it still says 98. Right? So I don't know if there's a lot to talk about, but that's on, now this, right? This, magic now, this is the materials that are on these sheets right here. So if we slide this baby down, we're going to see two components of it, and this is the first of those two components. So all I did was copy it and throw it on an Excel sheet. All right, I just thought it would be easier, may not be easier to read it that way, I don't know. But it does give us, so when I distribute it, so Vince, I don't think there's much to talk about, but it does give you anything you wanted to say about it to reinforce. This is this year's.
Gonna make us all dizzy.
Huh?
It's flashing that thing too fast.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm using what we used to do at Sikorsky, and people were used to it, and I don't want to do it.
Helicopter.
Might have been.
Pilot was
Might have been. So it looks like this is the same as last year.
And again, as a reminder, this was a request from the board that we were happy to oblige with, and that we've continued to do, just to know about the incidentals of our staff. As Mr. Leahy shared, there's a description of each of these positions. So to your point, Mr. Leahy, there's not really, unless anyone has a question, not much to go into this.
Good? Go? Okay. Now, the second page, 2, which is the second part of this, all right, this is what we looked at last year. I tried to use blue and green, red to see this. But what you will notice is the 248.5 at the bottom there in the yellow, all right, which was their total of all of the ones in the total column on the right-hand side, all right? Mike was educating me about this the other day in the office. And what you see here is it's no longer 247.5, it's 250.5, but one of the reasons is what was put in there in yellow. I did not add the yellow. Mike or Vince or someone did, so why don't you guys, you mentioned it before, but here's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, so this is the position, the SSO, school security officers, that we've implemented this past year. I neglected to reach a thanks out to the Orange Police Department. These conversations occurred many years ago, and through guidance with board members and Chief Gagné, which recommended going with school security officers, it finally came to fruition, but that's the reason why you see the additional floor.
Okay. So that's your kind of, if you want to use the word head count, that's usually in organizations what they call it, but you know, where your money's going. And it's a great summary chart. And I think someone in your staff, Vince, a couple of years ago created it. I didn't come up with the idea. I just, when I saw it, I said, I like this, let's do this every year. So this is good standard work. Gene? And I can distribute these slides at the end of the meetings. Wish. Okay, let's see. Another slide that's in the deck, I can put it up here. I don't know how detailed we're gonna talk about it, but this is, you know, a little bit busy, so let's walk it through together. What I do is I say to myself, don't make your head crazy, Jim. Just look at the white columns, because that's the forecast for this year. So you can see the white column for MLT. You can see the white column for Racebrook, right? The number of from grades 1 to 6, how many students they're projecting, how many classes. You divide it out, let Excel do the work. You get the totals, you let Excel do the work. Turkey Hill similarly, same kind of stuff, 56, grade 1, all the way down to 313. All right, and in Peck Place, you have similar numbers. So you can see that Peck Place has almost as many as Racebrook, and they have each about, 40 to 50 more than over at Turkey Hill. And, discussion about stuff could be had, but I don't have anything particular that I'm going to surface. And this, again, is one of the tabs in the Excel chart. And that's great standard work, because you can see where it is. The only other chart I created, which is pretty simple, since you guys did all the work, it took me about a minute and a half. These are the various student-teacher ratios, sometimes called. Overall, it seems to be 17.0 across all K through 6. And you can see how it stands. And again, it should be exactly the same as what's here. If it's not, it's operated error by me, not an unknown thing. But that's one of the things I had there.
Are we happy with the class sizes overall?
Class sizes has always come up as a discussion. My personal opinion, it's not about a specific number. A joke that I use, Mr. Nuzzo, I don't know how many children you may have or don't have. Every kid's different, right? And I think depending on the class you have, it determines. So, I like to share you could have a class of 20 to 23, and they're fantastic. You could have a class of 15, and you need assistance. And this is where the principals do an excellent job where they present their budget and go over the specificity of their students and the needs of their individual students depending on the class. So that's what occurred this time. So to answer your question, I believe where we are right now, and as a reminder, we also like to have it this size because now there's space if we do get additional students from Firelight and subsequently Smith Farm.
Yeah, I'd like to build on that thought, Vince, because I say this every year, but maybe there's new people in the room or watching on TV. I came to Orange because of the school system. I'm now in the middle of my 40th year here on Lambert Road. And it's. I know, Bill, you came to Orange because of the school system, I remember, and a lot of people did. I don't know if all the people know some basic data. And I've made these observations in other years. You get it for free, so take it for what you paid for it. people have coming to Orange for at least 4 decades, if not more, because of the community and the school system. You know, when I went to Harvard Business School, Harvard Business School is 9 sections of about 80, 85 people, at least when I went there a lot of years ago. And I had the good fortune of being elected to a leadership position in my section, and then beyond that, there were 9 of us, and then I got elected further on. So I got involved with the faculty and particularly the deans. And I remember the second year, it was a cocktail party, and nobody ever gets drunk at Harvard Business School, right? I'm serious, not the faculty for sure. But they typically have a cocktail. So, and they said to me one time, they laughed when I was talking about, the grading system and everything. And they said, look, you know what we're really trying to do? Now remember, they're confiding, right? Because I was older. I think I was 30 at the time. And a lot of the kids were just a couple years out of college. And they said, what we're really trying to do is not screw you up. You come in here with great raw material, and we have to teach you something, and we try to do, but we're really trying to not screw things up. And I said to myself, imagine hearing that from the number 2 dean at Harvard Business School, and he was being serious. And that told me a lot about, this school. It's got this image, but they get good raw material. And I've always thought that whether it's the parents or the community, I mean, look what we do in this community from whole cloth volunteers, right? We do, and we kind of make that an ethic of the community, right? I've always thought that is very important to the type of community we have, and it transfers over to our educational system, all right? I mean, it's no surprise certain students, right? Your kids, Kevin, right? They're doing well.
Yeah.
Well, look at you, right? Same thing.
Packed
right?
school.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I just the second thing I want to say is this. This was a benchmark. It's old, same one as last year I showed you. But if you want to look at it, 3 columns. The left-hand column's K, the middle column's grade 2, the right column's grade 5. Orange is highlighted in orange. And if you could read it, on the left, they repeat the numbers K, 2, and 5. And you can see that orange is way above the middle in grade K in terms of, quote, student-teacher ratio. And way at the top of the student-teacher ratio in grade 2 and grade 5, which is great. I used to teach 7th grade for 6 years before I went to business school. And then I remember, if I had to say something to, God, I remember when my son was born, my first child. And I remember, imagine this, Joe. The Dr. Carney, he looks up with his glasses and he has my kid's 4 days old. How old am I? I don't know, 30, whatever. And he looks up and he goes, he's got a murmur. And I'm standing there, okay, and what does that mean? I couldn't wait, and he says, oh, not to worry about it, it'll go away over time. We're so worried. And I remember as my kids developed, and what I would certainly to be telling my kids as they get into the age now of having children, what we're trying to do here in grade K through 12 is not optimize grade 4, okay? We're trying to optimize the process of our children that we love dearly, right? Going through that entire process. But it is so hard when you come up to individual instances in the days that you go through, particularly your first one, right? So I would just, if I had one thing to mention, again, for what it's worth. And finally, when you look at these class sizes, when I first came on the board, you can see what the class size in orange was, a lot higher than it was now. And the Durham average on that chart you just see was even higher than that. Woodbridge, a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, had one higher than that. It doesn't mean any one of those is the right number, right? That's not my argument here. There's data, and there's what community are you in, what family you're in, okay? I can't say enough about my mother and father, okay? So, we have maintained quality educational experiences for our children, and class size being one of many, many key variables. And I'd just like to mention that. That's all. So, class size has varied over the years, and the students have always achieved well. And just like that assistant dean at Harvard Business School, it might be because of the raw material as much as any other factor. So I just wanted to pass that along. It's for free, doesn't make me right, all right, but it's my thoughts. All right, I just wanted to share it. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Vince? I know, Kevin, you came in late. The health insurance is a huge help, obviously. But we probably still have, and I appreciate everything you guys do, because you don't come in at 7% knowing, oh, we're gonna knock something off. This is honest. We probably have about 350,000 in there that I was looking at. That's either capital that we covered elsewhere in the prior years, the bus route, the new, and some of the other things. So without those, you'd be below 2. Actually, you'd be at like 1.5. So, and I thank you again for COVID. I've said that last year, because what Orange did compared to the other towns that I have teachers in and whatnot was just amazing. So that's the whole staff. That's everyone here. That was great. And still moves on. So,
350,
what's that?
350 you said?
Probably.
Oh,
I got all
just
my
rough.
scratch notes.
No,
And the furniture and the consulting of 30, and then we got that's
No,
a
new
state
bus
mandate.
and all that, you know.
The feasibility study is 100,000, and we got it's easily 350. That's stuff that's in here that we covered or didn't exist last year, or we covered through capital.
Okay.
So
So the objective tonight is like we've done on other nights with Vincent, staff, and the board, is we go through our analysis,
correct.
and then
If we have
That's all
any
we do
further
tonight.
questions, we'll reach out to Vince. I'll reach out to
Please do.
to you and Mike in the coming days. But
roger that.
Mr. McNamara, same, I know that you had a previous engagement,
Yeah.
I appreciate the
Yeah.
email, but if there's things that you specifically ask, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
thank you very much.
Okay,
then.
good.
All right,
If
thank
you're
you,
all set.
everyone. We
Break,
appreciate your
vote to
time.
take a
Need a
break.
motion to take a 5-minute
Motion,
recess?
take a break?
Sure, yeah. So I make a motion.
Second.
Good. Okay, good. Yeah.
Somebody did that to my grandson a year ago.
Well,
Okay, we call the meeting back to order at 8:25 on item number 5, budget discussion. Okay, John, I'll turn it over to you with your memo and any changes you want to update us on.
Okay, within the last week, as I said, I thought the Board of Selectmen approved the clerical workers contract for the town of Orange. I then went in and updated all the clerical workers lines in the budget. I wanted to get that in to get that correct. Then I also, as I was doing that, I went through the budget and made some adjustments, some cuts, and there was a couple of increases. There was a new position created. Can I see your summary for a second? No, the memo, yeah, that. There was a new position created in the building department that I hadn't picked up, that I picked up. The recording secretary for the town was in all the departments. We haven't been recording that in the last couple of years since we went to Munis. All that money is actually in the Board of Finance department, so I moved it out of the other departments, put it in the Board of Finance. There was part of one of the union contracts is one of the town employees lost his car allowance. Instead, he's driving a town car, so I made that adjustment. We increased another employee, so we needed some money there for his mileage. In one of the other budgets, tax collector budget, I took out the computer equipment that doesn't belong there. Police, he had that $35,000 for the computer that we gave it to him early. And then he had the money for the vehicles and the motorcycles. We're gonna pay for that in another area. Fire marshal got a new inspector, and with a new person, he needs new turnout gear. So I put that in there. I had talked to Jamie about that. Took out the mechanic in the Public Works Department that he asked for. The HVAC mechanic hasn't been approved by the Personnel Committee or the Board of Selectmen, so that doesn't belong there. I also adjusted the water for the fire hydrants. That was low. We had gotten the bill in January, and you get that in 2.5 years, so I upped that to what I thought it was going to be. Public Works roadways, I took $5,000 out of heavy equipment in streets and bridges. But then I saw in Park and Rec in the pool for the electricity, they had an increase that budget kind of falls in Dan Lynch, and he didn't think about that, I guess. So I fixed that. And then the insurance, I was able to shave $10,000 off of 2 of the insurances. So that brought the cuts down to about $220,000.
So you identified, by my count, John, 20 items. Some of them were increases, but some of them were cuts. And now we have and you have in the file that you gave me,
Yeah, so then I
you
went
have
back.
all that detail.
I went back and I readjusted our expense budget, readjusted our income budget, because now we had the grand list. And you could see, as I said in the memo to you, is that if you do that, we have about a $900,000 surplus right now. If we do nothing to the budget, we could probably take the mill rate down from 32.71 to 32.25.
Okay?
And that's leaving the car mill rate at the state mandated 32.476, whatever it is.
Okay, so if I go to the bottom of this sheet, which is now the summary of all the expenditures, it
Right.
says 2.26, right? Now, I'll just go to the PowerPoint slide that I created because I just created a slide, but basically it's Brancasi's stuff, right? And I'll just show it on the screen here. Might be a little easier to see at home, I don't know. But that's this. And the reason we're in this favorable position is we have a grand list, which means revenue coming in, right? In our 3 sources, the major source, we have 3 sources: real estate, motor vehicle, and business personal property. You can see it on the screen here or in the files that John gave us. And you can see that the real estate is by far the largest one, $1,865,000,000 of the net grand list for this year, which is up 16 million from where it was last year, walking across, which was a little under a 1% increase, which would be a pretty reasonable year all by itself were it just there. Motor vehicle net went up 13 million from 191 million to 205, which was an increase of a little over 7%. And we can find more details in the details of the Brancasi files. What was interesting to me was net personal property, but when you dig into it, what this turns out to be is almost entirely UI related. And this was the first year we were no longer paying our 10%. What you get, Ajit, if you're not familiar, was when you invest as a large company, I think it's over 25 million, John, to get the 70%?
There's different layers.
Yeah, but you get 70% rebate on your taxes 1 year, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. And so UI is going from where last year getting a savings of 10%, now maybe they added more property, but certainly their 10% is going. And I have one more chart. But anyway, to finish off this chart, you can see that net personal property has gone up 33 million, a whopping 16%. So for the benefit of the town of Orange, on the revenue side, our next taxable grand list, it goes up 2.83%, a very healthy year, right? Just so you can see one more thing, this is our top 10. It's the same top 10 order as last year. You can see familiar names, UI, Southern Connecticut Gas, Grand Reserve, Connecticut, CLNP, FedEx, another real estate one, Orange VA, Orange Plaza, Hartford Lodging, that's at the top of the hill there, the two properties there, and R&F Orange LLC, that's the Raymore and Flanagan. And what you can see now is the 2022 total, all right, and what the net grand list is here, 339, and it now tabulates up to almost 14 2/3%, all right, 14.66. Last year, it was 308, and it was only 13.3%, so a little bit more consolidation, but up to 14%. And then the estimated tax value and what the increase is, and what the increase is in each of the ones. And you can see for sure that UI has gone up a solid 13%. That's 673. We don't have the breakout by the three different types, but that's the top 10. So those are the only two slides I made up for this meeting to support the type of grand list material, John, that you were just walking us through. Okay?
One quick question, John. On the UI, we had heard last year or so that they are moving some of their equipment to West Haven's new facility. Have you heard about that? Is that happening, or is that going to affect our grand list over time?
It's not the UI, it's Southern Connecticut Gas that's owned by UI. And as far as we know, they are moving, but they are moving some of their personnel into the UI building. And I believe some of that increase has to do with some renovation that they did in the office building part of UI up on the hill up there.
So the gas company building's gonna end up vacant.
Yeah, it's supposedly on the market. We haven't heard of anybody taking it yet. But I think they're probably gonna move all their motor vehicles to West Haven, it looks like. So we're gonna lose their motor vehicles, and that's probably a pretty good number.
Yeah. Yeah, the last time we had
So hopefully we pick
parcel.
up more with Amazon,
yeah.
their vehicles.
If they register them in Connecticut.
Since the cardinal rates across the board the same, doesn't matter where you store them anymore, right?
No, but they're not registered, a lot of them in the state, period.
They're not.
No,
okay.
that's Amazon, not Southern Connecticut Gas.
No,
Yeah.
Amazon,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Kev, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, what's interesting about this chart is if you look at all the commercial properties, they're all down except for the public utilities. And to your point, the public utilities
are up because of the increase on the personal property. That's looks like to be a big driver between the UI and Southern Connecticut Gas.
Yeah, that Southern Connecticut gas property, if you remember the last time we had a property on top of the hill come up for bid, there was a ton of bidders, right? I would be shocked if over time there wouldn't be a very strong candidate for that location where Southern Connecticut is not guaranteed, but
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a little bit surprising to see the real estate only went up 0.9, right?
The
Did you
values
say?
have jumped the last couple of years substantially.
No, but I'm
Well, no,
saying,
there's no rebound.
right.
That won't take that.
That's right, we haven't revalued.
Yeah, this is just new stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not higher, though.
Right.
well, we can dig into it more, but the good news for us is our highest ones had the highest increase.
Yep.
Our lowest ones on this chart,
Yep.
they're still big hitters, right? They're adding an awful lot to our tax value, right? Went down slightly, all right? And again, I just threw together this chart so we had,
Good chart. That's a good chart. No, I like that chart, Jim. Well done.
yeah, I just copied and pasted. I didn't even, well, I had to put some columns in, do some math, but, half hour.
Hey, we could be getting a good one next year when Connecticut
Minor
Orthopedics
violation.
building is built.
Well, it might
They're
not be
gonna,
misspelled. It's
they're gonna
sometimes,
share that building with Hartford
sometimes it's
Healthcare,
just not.
The one over by, let's have one conversation.
Chart.
where the trailer park
Trailer park
used to
was.
be.
Yeah, okay.
The holdup right now is, I understand they're waiting for the steel. There hasn't been movement there since they did the foundation work. But usually,
See,
doctor office
there's no-
buildings, if they put in an
there's no-
MRI
there's no
and
checking
other
that.
equipment there,
In Excel, right? No spell check in
usually
Excel.
pretty
So
good.
the new assisted
No,
living
it's
place
not
is
spelled
fully
wrong.
on
Yeah, Connecticut.
this grand list now, right?
T-I.
What's it, Verb?
No, because they're just getting their
Oh, I
CO
see what you're
now.
saying.
Oh, okay, so they're not up and running even though it looks finished?
Right.
And it's
They're
online?
moving people in, I think, starting this week.
Okay.
I thought it was a space you were talking about.
So that will be in here next year, that will be.
Next year, yeah.
With like brand so how do we explain this?
All right.
Swap out for the gas, probably not as much as the
Decrease,
gas.
like when real estate.
All right.
I don't know.
Jonathan, anything
Point
else
out.
you want to hit on this evening? Because I think our next
Have to go
meeting
into-
with the 900, that delta you're talking about, we'll see if there's anything else we want to do, but also, do we want to lower the mill rate with that almost $1 million, or use some of it for capital that we might have kicked down the road in a different year? But if we could have the capital, that account has in it now, the fund balance projections, so we could
Yeah,
sit there
I
and.
think what I need to get to is current fund balance projection, what our capital is, and myself and the first selectman sit down and review the capital requests and come to you with what we think should be done with the
Would that be
capital
that chart that we
requests.
did on that day?
But that needs to be reviewed by people other than those people
For priority or
for
for estimates?
priority.
Priority. Yeah, that's their priority,
Right.
right.
That's not the,
That's not the funding.
that's
We
not
will
the.
fund this and it will come from this
Right, but
funding
it's not,
source.
it's not the first selectman and my priority necessarily.
But overall, this is positive.
Could I share one thing, Kev? Kevin, your comment in the last meeting caused me to think about something. I'd like to share this with the team. I think it's important. You asked last time, Kev, should we take a closer look at the town budget side, right?
Yeah.
And I think what you saw here is an example of that. Well, I thought, and I remember back when you were here, what, 10 years ago, maybe a little more,
Yep.
on this board. So you didn't have the benefit of what I'm about to show you, so I just want to flash it, and this will take less than 5 minutes, or probably less than that. I called it Orange Board of Finance Historic Activity on Town Budget Requests, and again, I'm thinking for you, Kev. John, I did Jim's simple four-step process, right? Department heads submit budgets, they give them to you and the Department of Finance and Administration, these assessments or whatever you, and then they're reviewed for the first selectman. I remember we always get the first selectman column. How heavy he does a review is open to question, maybe he just leaves it for us. But what I was trying to get to is we do an assessment, the Board and Board of Finance, of these budget requests and look at it in light of taxpayer affordability. I remember when Rob Bosek was here, sitting in this chair. You remember that, Kev?
Absolutely.
He went to this children's 3-hour hockey game, I think it was, and I'll show you what he did. But we call them funnel charts, and you'll see why in a second. But the following funnel charts summarize what we've done over our 5-year activity. And this is, for example, one that we show every year, but this is last year. So up in the upper right, what I did is I focused on the date of the presentation. These come from all the town budget hearings. And the structure of the chart is about the same. The numbers will change. How many targets we have, for example. We know we have on the budget line items those 7 major categories. And what essentially the process is, you analyze and come up with targets, and then you review those targets to look for reductions. And what we have done, pretty much as standard work each year, is show what we have done on the town side of the budget, all right, over and above what the departments would have done, over and above what the first selectman does, which is approximately what the like the superintendents do, and then the Board of Education makes a recommendation in those 2 budget areas, and this is what we do in this area. Okay, we actually go line item to line item. This now, although the structure of the chart looks like hasn't changed, but this is now the chart from the town budget hearing of April of 2021. And so it was for the next fiscal year, 21 and 22. And you can see we had 600,175 in targeted cuts, much like you see here, Kev, on the second page of this memo, like this, okay? We have them documented. This is the third one that even though we had, this is the COVID year, right, for fiscal 1920, or excuse me, I should say up there 2021, my error on that fiscal year thing there, which I'll correct right now. This is for fiscal year 20 and 21. What I'm trying to get is the point that we've been doing this review each year on our town budgets. So Kev, you didn't have the value of sitting in on that. Doesn't mean we've done a great job. It doesn't mean we've done a job. And this year it was $760,000, $783. Okay, I have the summary in the last chart of this deck. Here is the year before that for fiscal year 1920. And as you can see, a little under 400,000 in targeted cuts. A lot of small ones, perhaps, because there were 45, but we looked for wherever we could save money. This goes back to 1819, as you can see, and this was from the town budget hearing of that 2018 April year. And again, now this is again 728. And this is the Rob Bosek one. He was the one who initiated this process for us, coming in on that Monday morning. I remember he sent a note to you and me, Kevin. He said, "I hope you guys don't mad at me."
Oh, yeah.
Mad at us, remember? And he said, for finding these things and or public, all good ideas, we'll bring them to the team and see them. So it was over $1 million. So all I'm really saying is that if you look at this data from that perspective, I wanted to make sure that everybody in this team remembers, everybody watching at home knows that this body analyzes significantly the town budget materials that we get in February and looks for opportunities that could, again, to make it affordable, what we need, and make it affordable for our taxpayers, right? And as you can see by the chart and the material on the right, in the last 6 years, the total that we've identified has been almost $4 million, $3,909,300 if Excel has added it up right now, punched it in right. So Kev, I just wanted to make sure you were aware that we've done this. We've used this funnel chart, I've called it for years over at Sikorsky, to kind of show a process, all right, so that you could easily kind of see what people are doing. And this is just a summary chart of what those last 6 years were.
Yeah,
So I'll
that's-
open it for any
That's
questions.
good, yeah. So the only question I would have, so those reductions were based on reductions from department proposed budgets to the final budget, where we landed?
After it had gone through the first selectmen's process.
Correct, right. So what I was
Because I see
saying,
the first selectman playing the role of the superintendent.
Right.
And what we do is the role of the, like the board, we're the Board of Finance, but the
Right.
ones who look at superintendents, but it would be boards of education.
yeah, I mean, we got good news tonight on the grant list, which is great. That's gonna help offset and lower the mill rate. My only point last meeting was to look at the town budgets also in a similar fashion like we do with Amity, in that we look at the actuals over a period of, 4 to 7 years, see how those actuals, how they trend towards budget, and then go from there. So if you're getting underruns in town budgets consistently, you're not in all departments, but if you look at the data, you'll see that employee benefits and public safety, due to the vacancy factor of police officers and that type of thing, that typically those budgets do underrun. So there's an opportunity for us as a board to look at that, examine that, and potentially lower them even more to reduce the mill rate further.
Well,
That was the point I was making.
that's what we've been doing, and had you been here on February 1st, we
Yep,
had the actuals for that point in time,
yep,
for that particular year, and we could ask those types of questions. And
yeah.
in future meetings of this board, we're gonna be doing the exact same
Right,
thing.
exactly.
When we'll have better actuals for this.
Right, when John, has a
Yeah.
total roll-up, which he does tonight, then you factor in the grand list, and then we can figure out where we want to go.
Yeah, plus we have John, who's so familiar with it,
Yeah.
he knows where to look.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, if you try and lower the police labor budget by officers, you're gonna have a big fight with the chief. Even though.
No, I just
he
use that
doesn't-
as I just use that as an example. Yeah. I'm not looking to cut the police department or reduce the police department. All I'm looking to do is to treat the data from an actual standpoint on what we've been actualizing over the years and put in a solid budget.
But Kevin-
number. Yeah,
That's what we've been doing.
so.
That's how we came up and identified these. Now, this year, we're only at 213,000, so if we feel the need. to
Yeah, listen, I think we're in a good
identify more,
spot.
I feel that's a good idea.
I think we're in a good
We've been in
spot.
far worse spots than this. This is
Yeah.
one of
Oh,
the better
yeah.
ones ever.
Yeah, a lot of this has been by need.
Yeah,
When, for example, back in the day, Amity was coming in at, one year, what, was it 95? Kevin, correct me, wasn't it over 90% of our overall increase in our budget was all from Amity? If I remember right, back around mid-2015s? I can go back and check my presentation.
And that could happen next year if there's an ADM switch again.
That's right.
We could just get,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
and that's why you gotta be careful and think through anything that's gonna be building up. Because if you bring it down here and then next year we have a swing up there with students, we could end up with $1.5 million, $2 million swing just on Amity.
Jim, could you go back to the expense summary?
Sure.
Because I remember one year we had about, it was like 700,000 just on the ADM piece and then the normal increase on top of that. It was like, oh,
It's like 1.9 million or 2 million.
yeah, it was like
Right.
terrifying.
This one,
Yes.
the bottom in the yellow.
Where is?
Oh, did you say the Amity number was going to be bigger? Did you say that?
No, it went down. The Amity number's right there. If you go up a little bit first, well, there's the Amity number right there. That's the number I got from Terry today.
26,183.
So that's down 187 if you
Right.
go up, I think, Jim,
Just go up to, yeah.
to the Amity line, the actual
Stop.
line.
Yeah,
right
184,
there.
155.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went down 74 students at Amity this year. And Orange and Bethany and Woodbridge went down
Go on.
7 apiece.
Go up a little more, Jim. Just a little more. I want to see one thing, if I got a percentage in there. Okay, right there.
Employee
So it
benefits.
looks like the town part of the budget's up 5.53, And I'll bet you most of that is the salary increases. 'Cause
Salary increases in debt service, right?
No, because the debt service is below that.
it's below that?
But it's
Okay.
salary increases. Remember, you're looking at 2 years of
Right.
salary increases because last year had to carry the bad number. And most of those salary increases are 3 and 2.75, and there's a lot of leveling, so that's,
Is that because of the timing of the contracts?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The police department settled 6 months into the new year, and the clerical settled just last week. And we still have 2 to go. We still have supervisors and dispatchers.
So,
If you were to go look, if I were to go back and that amount changed, that's going up there, 1.4 million.
Yes,
If I
sir.
go back into the labor items, probably, I'll bet 85% of that is probably labor, increase of labor.
you and I have a next step. Why don't we do that together as well, unless you wanted to do it all by yourself?
Just need a little time to do some other stuff first.
Well, I can start it. I mean, I know where the labor is. Or you can just tell me, here, I'll come down here and I'll do a V1 and give you the file back, and then you decide. But I hear what you're saying. You're saying if you go back up here and you say, okay, wherever you have these,
Go into your, go into one of the police department budgets, let's just use that as an example.
okay, here we
Not
go.
the actual department budget.
Yeah, not this spreadsheet.
Not this-
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think 200, 21, 200.
Yeah, it's a 200 one.
Jim, question, do you have a chart?
21,
Uniform Patrol?
go into that one.
Yeah. What's that, Joe?
Do you have a chart over the last, just say, I mean, I started in '09.
Look at, if you,
Second.
oh, I'm sorry.
Like these here?
There's your wage increase there.
Is that 174? Yeah.
Oh, you gotta keep going down too.
Oh, all of this is,
That 286.
so the 286 is what you're saying it is?
Right. That's
So
all-
we'd have to go into all of them and
all
do the same thing?
All the labor ones.
That's contractual then? or
That's
this
all
is gonna be
contractual.
Contractual.
Well, you could say 286, they're only going up 291. Right? So you could see it's by contract. Okay. And you're educating me, John, that the reason it's 7.5% is that there was a 3% hit and then a 2.75% hit on
Plus-
some of them?
Plus, they all received,
Retro, you say, right?
they all received
Retro.
a leveling of $1
What does that mean?
an hour. So
Oh, they go
if they were
after-
making 32, they made 33, actually 32.
Yeah.
Then they got the 3%.
Right.
And whatever that was, then we added $1 to it. Then they got the 275
Oh,
for
hold
that.
it.
On top of that.
This is a formula.
So it's a compound. Yeah, it's a
No,
compound.
it's this
It's 3%.
times 3% plus 1, so you gotta put parentheses around that, Joey, right? And then you
Times
multiply that times
2.75.
2.75. Now, is this kind of standard work across all of them?
It's negotiated.
Oh, okay, but it's typical. Okay. All right, so I'll see if I can, okay, right, I understand what needs to happen here. So John, you asked us to do the budget summary. So you now told us what you've done here. Maybe talk to us about what you've done on the revenue one, because you've done great work here.
Okay. The revenue one, I just plugged it in at the current mill rate, which then
Okay.
gave us that 74,333, 797. And then Art had done the other items, estimated the other revenue items. So that if you go to the bottom,
Okay? So I'm gonna go assume in this column here is what you're saying, right?
and we plugged in all the state funding we're getting,
Okay,
which if you notice there, we're losing car revenue.
Right.
And ECS, right?
ECS, we lost a little bit
Yep.
too.
that's more than, oh,
We
okay.
lost 19,735 there.
Yeah, but we've been coming down here,
Yeah.
coming downhill.
John, how do we lose money with the car mill rate at
Because-
2.46?
Because we went down in taxes last year on the overall taxes.
The mill rate went down a half a mil, 0.5.
So that's how they do it. And now, if we go down to 32.25, we'll lose it all probably next year.
Yeah.
Okay. How much money is that?
So,
What line item are we discussing here, team?
It's like 54,000.
it's in the
wasn't it?
treasurer's area, I
Oh, okay.
believe.
All right, let me just get
It's like
there.
54K, right?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, we lost 76,000. Yeah, it's
Yeah. I might have it highlighted. I
treasurer,
think.
yeah, it is highlighted yellow.
The 104,
No, keep
state
going.
aid, municipal aid?
No, keep going.
Keep going, thank you.
There it is, right there at the bottom.
Motor vehicle reimbursement. Well, this is a pretty good trade, right? I mean,
Yeah.
where mill rate's going down, right?
Yep.
Oh, no, we can't have the mill rate go down because we're gonna lose 50 grand. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know that, that's bad. But it's a reality. Okay, so I hear you. So,
So then if you continue to the bottom,
let's just mention that we discussed this today. Okay. All right, John, how far down you wanna go?
all the way to the
All the way,
bottom.
thank you.
Keep going,
Yep,
a little more.
yep.
Okay, so that brings us at the current mill rate at 32.71. That gives us 81,116 in revenue against the expense, whatever the number was, I forget, 80
Okay.
million or something.
Well, let's just not kill ourselves, right? We're gonna put it right here. We're gonna go get it this way, the old-fashioned way. All right, right
Right there?
there. Total budget. I think it's in. We have to use the yellow box, right, John?
Yellow box.
No, the 80,137, you can use that number.
That's the number.
Well, this says first selectmen's recommendation.
Yeah, but
What-
that's really where we are right now.
Okay. Right? So we just have the difference between these two. Should be easy enough.
900,000
Right? It should be a 900,000 number, right?
should be the number I
So let me just get the model of that. So these are our expenses. I'll move this thing over here. All right, Joey, keep it fair. All right, so this is current
Net profit.
current mill.
Current mills.
I just
Yeah,
label it surplus.
yeah.
Yeah, probably surplus is best. And we'll do that. And this assumes 32 point, what is it? 81?
7-1.
7-1.
7-1, thank
Yep.
you. All right, so way poor spelling. Okay, so this assumes this. And that gets us to the mill rate chart that you sent out to us, right,
Right.
John?
So if you leave it,
This one?
if you leave, right, if you leave those all like that, you'd bring the mill rate down to 32.25.
And that's what you've already done, the sensitivity analysis in here.
Yeah, but I didn't change that
Yeah, we
there, I
can do
just
that
did it
anytime,
myself.
yeah. Okay, but you essentially did that by hand scratch right over here, right? Nice
Yeah.
job. I could understand that 100%. Well, problems to have, I think, right?
Yep.
Good problems.
Right. Right, but still, we should, you know,
That's when we have all the information at the next meeting for capital fund balance. That's when we decide how we want to, and what, anything else we might want to change.
well, let's look at a calendar then. Here we are.
Our next meeting is the 20th.
We're gonna keep it on the 20th?
Yep.
Yes.
That's funny, I just wanted to know.
Yep. Yep. No,
We should
keep
be
it.
pretty close on the 20th, yeah, if we push it.
I think so.
Unless
we-
you have a lot of change.
And we could
then I
we
have
could
to go
start it
back.
at 6, or that might not work for you. Okay. We'll start at 7.
Oh, it's not 7.
7
We just have to
to,
go a little later, maybe.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right, but again, it gives us 2 weeks to prepare, and,
Didn't take too long.
you know,
and any other questions? Yeah.
and I think Amity has to decide by the 15th, Joe.
13th, right? Well,
Well, I put down they have a meeting maybe, I just,
On the 13th, that's what Paul said this
Yeah.
evening.
yeah.
So that number will be formalized for sure in there.
Before we meet again.
Yeah.
That's correct.
I mean, Joe, do you think that number's gonna go down any lower? They gonna put any more in?
I mean, 2.5 is where it is. The motion was 2.25 as we set, as the AFC mentioned. I don't know, maybe a little, but it's insignificant. I mean, it's nominal.
I don't buy what Paul Davis is saying today, that we have 200,000 in the budget from last year because we had to put a number in that was defeated at a referendum. I mean, the only other thing we could do is talk to Vinnie and see if we put no number in the future, that it's not part of our referendum. I mean, I don't know how much clearer we can make it that they
I
weren't
think it's
voting
clear
on
to
that
anybody
number.
who wants to understand it.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's when we get into the fuzzy math, because Orange voted no 3 times. They never approved any of it. So they're not going to say, oh, there's 200,000 from your initial budget to the one that got passed. Ultimately, that money should still go there. Nobody voted for that.
Look,
And you know, was it used for education in the town? Of course we have it. We tax people.
hey, listen,
The
I got 2
money-
more
the
charts.
money's in the bank.
Kevin, permit me to put these charts up.
Oh,
please.
one other thing, the treasurer tonight gave me updated interest thing, and we're now up to, his estimate is 792,000 for the year end. And I believe they're talking about another 0.25% interest
Oh, yeah.
rate hike.
The
so
minimum.
It should go even higher.
When are they announcing that, tomorrow?
No, I think it's the end of March, because they just did it like a week and a half ago. They just hit another 25 basis points.
Could I just throw up for the benefit, I know everybody on this team knows it, but I just want to get it on the screen, okay? Our town budget, this is it. This is a summary of it last year. These are the 3, or 4 if you wish, for sure. Amity, the town, departments, Amity, Orange Board of Education, we're here tonight, the town departments we've just been discussing, and capital and debt, all right? And there's the totals for last year, all right? Component, broken down. And Kev, to use a quote I've used from you, with your permission, education is important. It's 2/3 of our entire budget. We have to consider all parts of the budget in our budget preparation, both our schools, our capital needs, and our town departments. And the total of these, as you can see, $49,256,000, almost $50 million went to education last year, this year we're in. 25 million odd went to the town departments and a little bit under 4.5 for capital and debt. And to use Kevin's Houlihan's, our chairman, OBOE uses our town buildings. Major repairs to those buildings are also funded by the town through bonds. And the point he's making is this funding is also part of the educational cost, which is not part of the 62.9% you can see over there. So when I hear that money that got sent to Amity that used to be sent back by check now gets sent back to a credit, that somehow, but we must protect it to be only used for education. We're spending $2 out of 3 for education now. What do we think we're doing with our money? Right? I mean, like, this is news? And you know, the issue of inflated budgets, surpluses, I can understand variability. But if variability were causing you to have surpluses, 2 things. Why is it so much higher now? Still had the same variables, special ed, medical and dental. All right, back when Brady and Chip DeMay was superintendent and different boards of education were in place. And also, if variability is what we're funding here to make sure you don't go right skimming to the thin line of survival, then what we're doing in our education budget at Amity is basically providing insurance, which is not exactly the same as education, although it's in that component of it. So I don't know exactly how to bridge the gap here, Kev, on these concepts. But I want everybody to know we spend a large majority, 2/3 of our budget, of your taxes, go to education. Peace.
Okay, item number 7, discussion and approval of minutes from February 27th, 2023, regular meeting. John?
Batting lead off, John?
Yes.
You getting into spring training gear?
Deb, at the top of page 2, you could have joined us over here. No. Where the end of the second line where it says Mr. Cifarelli indicated that there is an unwritten policy. Instead of unwritten policy, I would say an agreement with Dr. Brady that the town of Orange, with Dr. Brady, that the town of Orange will pay the towns. It should be all the towns, not just the town of Orange. Dr. Brady will pay
The member towns.
the member towns for after one referendum. Okay. Then at the bottom, where it says account number 21, general fund,
Yep.
nobody's gonna really know what that is. Come from counter, but I think on the actual motion, we need to put the actual accounts. Remember, I gave out a piece of paper that had the actual accounts on it. I think we need to add those actual accounts to that. Okay.
Is it in the general fund, John?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
moved them. We moved money from 2 other accounts to pay for it, that I said I had surpluses for the year.
But when you use the words general fund, that sounds like fund balance.
That's no, totally different.
Okay, could we
The general
use-
fund is the budget.
The main budget.
Okay.
The main budget.
How about we just call it that then? Because it's a lot clearer. When I heard the word general fund, I circled that. And I said, general fund, we took money out of, we didn't take it out of a budget? I thought we took it out of a budget.
We took it out of insurance auto and insurance umbrella.
Well, why don't we say that?
Well,
From
we
the
are.
insurance
Well, that's what
auto-
he's changing it to.
That's what I'm changing it to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the motion should have
Motion should
included
reflect that.
that
Are you good with
paper.
those two, Deb? Yeah. Okay.
Yep. It was
Okay.
20,000 from auto insurance and 34,000 from umbrella insurance.
Excellent. Very strong.
And then, ready? And then under number 8, where it says the next Board of Finance meeting is scheduled for Monday, February 6th, that should be March.
Right.
Okay, then on the 4th line down, he also mentioned that the clerical union contract is going before the Board of Selectmen for approval. And that's
Okay.
all I had.
Okay. I got a couple, Deb. Back on page 1. Oh, by the way, under number 3, I was giving the vice chairman update. Joe is we'll be flipping those. Joe will have the Amity update on the page, on item 4. But anyway, the first bullet under Mr. Leahy section there, item 3, Mr. Leahy attended the Amity Finance Committee meeting. That's all good. I'd like to edit in the middle of the second paragraph under bullet 3, the 4th line down. Mr. Leahy noted that despite the budget reduction, Amity continues to overtax residents with his surpluses. I would take out the word built in. and take out the words over the last 13 years, even though I showed that chart. I think the main point was that. On the next sentence, I would take out the word easily on the third line from the bottom. Can allow Amity to focus, take out the word easily, without bonding. And I would continue on capital expenditures and tax relief to member towns. That was on the slide I presented. So the sentence would go like this. He added that debt service will be reduced by that big number there over the next 4 years, almost $4 million, 3.7. And this savings can allow Amity to focus on capital expenditures and tax relief for 2 member towns. And I would take out the words without bonding. Yeah, that's not needed. And then Kevin asked a question. On the top of, finishing off that sentence on the top of page 2, it says from approximately 50% to, that should be 48.5, not 49.5. We can get the numbers if you need them. I have them available. As reflected, as it reflects a decrease in the number of Orange students at Amity. So as it reflects, take out the word in, a decrease in the number of Orange students at Amity. I think that says it properly. I would put a period, on the next bullet, I would put a period at the end of referendum cost of $24,870. And then start the sentence, Amity budgeted for 3 referendums this year and removed the cost of the proposed budget, citing it as a budget reduction.
Are you saying, Jim, that you expect the budget to pass the first time this year?
No, I'm saying that's what we said. What they did, Joe, is they put what cost them last year,
What won't be a cost this year?
they put it in their budget for this year, which is debatable, sleight of hand, suspect. And then they took it out and called it a cut. I didn't want to get into my feelings about it, but I think this fairly presents it. The last sentence, Mr. Leahy also mentioned that the governor signed an emergency authorization to increase the reimbursement rate for special education costs from 70% to 85%, should be added at the end of that sentence. We also talked about what Amity did, but I don't think we have to jam it into the notes at this point. Reiterating what I mentioned earlier at the beginning, Deb, the next section is when Joe came in, and I think you should call that Amity report, Mr. Nuzzo. And that's all I have, my suggestions.
Alrighty. Kevin?
Yeah, Deb, the only change that I have is under paragraph, where is it here? 7. Let's go. So I guess it would be under number,
Page 1, Kev?
yeah, page 2,
Page 2?
second paragraph. Yep.
Mr. McDevola?
Yeah, Mr. McNamara stated we have a real opportunity to hold the line or lower the mill rate for the coming year based on the proposed budget by Amity, the town, and the Board of Ed. Hopefully we'll have minimal increases, and we can, if we factor in the grand list,
We didn't
should-
have it at the time.
yeah, we didn't have it at the time, but if we factor in the grand list, we should be able to hopefully reduce the mill rate.
So how much do you want to put in?
That's just that.
Yeah, one more time for Deb.
Yeah, Mr. McNamara stated that we have the opportunity, a real opportunity to either hold the line or reduce the mill rate for the coming year based on the current Amity budget and hopefully based on the proposed town and Board of Ed budgets with minimal increases.
I think that probably captures it
Yep,
at that
at
point in time.
that point in time, yep.
I have one suggestion. Second page, second bullet, second page, first bullet. Mr. Leahy also mentioned that the governor signed an emergency authorization to increase the reimbursement rate for special education costs. I will take the word access because that increase is for the entire cost, not only for the access cost. That's 70% to 85%.
I think it's
Excess cost of special ed, right.
I think it is.
That's what
Only
they
access?
call it.
That's what they
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah,
it
that's
is.
what they call it.
I'm not sure it was an immediate was it emergency authorization?
I don't think it was. I don't
I'd take
think it
out the
was.
word, I'm glad you bring this up, Ajit. I'd take out the word emergency. It doesn't seem like it was an emergency. You just put it into the budget.
I don't remember.
It's the governor's proposed budget,
Oh,
yeah,
I
right.
woke up, it's an emergency. No, that's not what happened, is it?
We're not getting it anyways. Our
ECS got reduced, yeah. But yeah, he was referring to excess cost, which is special education cost.
So how would you end that sentence then, John, if Ajit surfaced it for us?
I don't remember if they were speaking about special ed or.
It was special ed.
It was special ed.
It was
excess
special ed,
cost.
and it went from 70 to 85,
Yeah.
but Amity budgeted
Yeah, but
80.
everybody budgeted at 80.
I would take out the excess costs and I would just leave it as special education costs.
Take out the word excess.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so that was your idea.
So Ajit was right.
All right. All right. All those for Ajit. All right.
Anything else?
Joe?
I just had one to put, you wanna put the vote was 5-1 after I came back at 2 1/4? We should probably put the vote was 5-1.
The vote was
Right.
5-1, yeah.
Well, that wasn't here though, but, so did we get that, just add, put the AMC vote was 5-1?
Yeah.
Middle of page 2 under vice chairman's report, but that's, you changed that now?
To Amity.
They approved the budget increase on a 5-1 vote,
The
yeah.
5-1 vote, yeah.
Who was a no vote?
The Orange Board of Finance.
Okay. Mr.
Violated the
I
rules.
guess
Jim.
Paul is not familiar with that. We've been doing this for a
Well,
while.
he grabbed me last week, I told you about that already. He was upset with, or actually, yes, last week, he was upset with that, what happened with that. That we made that motion, but we've always made that motion
We've
to
done
support,
7 years.
It's part of our, yeah.
Yeah,
to support. He didn't like that.
and they do whatever they want anyway.
It doesn't matter, I know.
It's just a-
That's like he said, what does that vote really mean? Guess what? Well, nothing. It means
Never
nothing.
has,
It means
never
nothing,
will.
right? It means nothing.
But that's an interesting thing. I'll take that as the next step.
All right, so is there a motion to approve as amended? Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, unanimous. Thank you. All right, item 8. Is there a motion to adjourn?
There is a motion to adjourn.
Second by Ajit.
All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting adjourned at 9:18.
Right.
So again, I'm going back to the whole idea as to why a document from 25 years is being pushed an option 25 years later when we don't know exactly why that option was put in there, if the option was put in there for 2 years down the road or 4 years down the road? Why is it being rolled down the road
Well,
to 25 years later?
It doesn't matter, it's irrelevant why it was put in, it was exercised.